Hi all, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to discuss about how Salesforce testing is quite different from testing other applications. So, just as a reminder guys, the way we test the testing process, everything is going to be the same on all applications, okay? But the only difference is on which application you are testing, right? That is going to be different. So based on the application, its functionalities might differ and lot of things might differ, okay? So based on that, you have to upgrade the way you test, okay? Your test cases, your testing strategies, those might be quite different, but testing process overall is going to be the same, okay, on Salesforce as well, okay? Now let's discuss the first most important point based on Salesforce testing. User interface testing on Salesforce. Okay, so mainly when it comes to the Salesforce application, the first and foremost, the most important thing is its user interface. Okay, so if you as a Salesforce tester, you start testing the Salesforce application, it's not just like you just go and check whether the button is working or not, whether the few elements are displayed properly or not. No, it's not the case. You need to understand clearly the Salesforce application, okay? Like what are all the different consoles available on Salesforce, like the health console, sales console, service console, marketing console, and then how to navigate to that particular console on Salesforce. Lot of things you need to understand initially, okay, to start with the Salesforce testing. Then only you can do the proper user interface testing on Salesforce, because if you don't even know about the platform, what you're going to test actually, okay? So first thing is understand the Salesforce application, okay? That is very important. Understand the platform, how to navigate, what are all the different access we can get, which license, what if we don't have access to that particular console, whom we need to reach out. So lot of such basic concepts we need to understand. And once again, in every video I always say this, and again I'm repeating, Salesforce admin concepts, you need to be very clear on your Salesforce administrator concepts to test Salesforce application properly, okay? Salesforce administrator concepts are very important, okay? This is the first one. Next, Salesforce issues. So like for example, if you're testing some other application and if you're facing some issues, you might actually think like, okay, it's a functionality issue or some code related issue, you have to reach out to your particular dev team. But when it comes to Salesforce, not all issues are code related issues, okay? Because on Salesforce, you will be assigned with different roles, different profiles, and you will be given different set of access, okay? So when you're given with a particular access, you will not have access to all the consoles on the Salesforce. You cannot access all the objects. So if you're facing an issue, it's not always a code related issue, okay? Sometimes it can be a permission issues, and it can be a configuration issues also. Means what? Like on Salesforce, like all applications are not built based on the code written by the developer only. Few applications are built based on some point and click methods, like the configuration changes, okay? So the issues you might observe might be because of the configuration issues, okay? So for all such kind of issues which are not related to code exactly, you should reach out to your Salesforce administrator, okay? This is another thing which is important, which is different from testing other applications, okay? The next thing is data on Salesforce, okay? So the data which is displayed on Salesforce, it might be based on two ways, okay? One through the API call and another through the file upload, okay? API call means what? Like application programming interface, right? API means as usual, like from the upstream system. Like for the Salesforce, you might be having some upstream system, right? So from the upstream system, the API might pull the data and provide us the output, okay? So that particular output data can be displayed on the Salesforce, okay? That is one possibility. So the data displayed on Salesforce can be through API call, one possibility. Another thing is through file upload, okay? So Not all the data which is displayed on Salesforce is through API call. Okay, from the upstream system, you need to get the input file, and that input file you can provide to the Salesforce developer. That developer can load that file onto the Salesforce using the data loader. Okay, so then the data might be displayed on Salesforce. Okay, that is called as the file upload concept. Okay, so this thing also you need to understand to proceed with testing. Okay, the data which is displayed on Salesforce, like how it is displayed exactly, whether it is through an API call or whether a file upload. Okay, a file has been uploaded onto the Salesforce. Okay, so to display the data. Okay, accordingly you need to update your test cases. Okay, the next thing is configurations on Salesforce. Okay, yeah, as I mentioned earlier also in another point, not all the applications which are built on Salesforce are code related. Okay, few are built just based on some point and click methods. For example, using process builder, using flow builder. If you might have known the Salesforce administrator concepts very deeply, you can easily understand what is a process builder and what is a flow builder. Okay, so if you're facing any issues, then those issues might be related based on this flow builder and process builder. Okay, so accordingly your test cases needs to be updated. Okay, it's not always like if any issue we are observing on UI, it's some code related issue. Okay, the issue might occur because of a particular flow not working properly, or a particular process builder is not built correctly. Okay, this thing also we need to understand as a Salesforce tester. The releases will be in this manner, like spring release, winter release, summer release. Okay, so every time whenever Salesforce is releasing something, already an existing functionality might be removed and the new updated functionality might be added onto the Salesforce. Okay, so accordingly you need to continuously keep updating your test cases as well. Okay, it's not like whatever your the UI you're seeing, it will be the same forever. Okay, every year, every quarter, spring, winter, summer releases, few things might be removed and other things might be updated, or a new functionality might be added onto Salesforce. Okay, accordingly your dev team will be changing few things, and accordingly your test cases also continuously needs to be updated. Okay, this also we need to be clear as a Salesforce tester. Okay, another point is Salesforce backend. Okay, so in Salesforce only particularly, we have a concept called as a SOQL. Means what? Salesforce Object Query Language. Okay, so if on UI, if any data has been updated, okay, it might be directly updated on the Salesforce UI only, or an upstream system also. We might be having some other upstream system, right? So if you're updating any data on the upstream system, that might be reflecting on the Salesforce UI, right? So if you want to validate the Salesforce backend also, whether the data has been clearly updated or not, how you will test it on Salesforce? You have to navigate to the developer console, and you will be having a section to write your SOQL queries. Okay, SOQL is slightly different from SQL queries. Okay, it's like the way you write, it will be like almost the select queries only, but few things might not be supported in SOQL. Okay, so Salesforce Object Query Language. So by writing the query and by hitting the query, you can get the result. Accordingly you can understand whether the data is updated as expected in the Salesforce backend also. While writing the SOQL query, sometimes if you want to access the custom objects, you need to write their API names. Okay, in the SOQL queries directly. For example, if you want to access the custom phone field, you need to check whether the phone field has been updated or not with the updated phone number. Directly you cannot give the phone field name. Okay, in the query you need to give the phone field's API name. Okay, so now what is API name and all, I have already discussed in my previous videos. I request you guys to kindly go and check my other Salesforce administrator videos also, so you guys can clearly relate to whatever I'm speaking over here. Okay, so in SOQL queries, whatever you're writing, you have to use the API names. Okay, if you're trying to access the custom objects, and it's not like everyone can access the developer console. Few access restrictions will be available. For example, if you have been given with a Salesforce administrator access, then you can access the developer console. Okay, otherwise, lower than Salesforce administrator, if you have been given with any other access, then you cannot view the Salesforce developer console. Okay, these all things also, being a Salesforce tester, you need to clearly understand. Okay, if you're not able to view the developer console, then you should be able to understand that okay, my access is not correct, I need to get my access updated so that I can view the developer console. Okay, this is another thing. The next point is API testing on Salesforce. So it's not that easy actually, because Salesforce internally will be connected with multiple third party party application. So it will be connected with multiple third party applications using APIs. Okay, so it's not like again single API. One single API may be again hitting another API. Okay, so one single API might be calling multiple APIs internally. So the way you test this using Postman or SOAP UI, it can be quite challenging. Why I'm saying it as a quite challenging? Because if you're testing one API, then you might get the proper result, okay, whatever is expected. But when you're testing on the Salesforce user interface on the UI, you're still observing the issue. Okay, you might think like, okay, my API is returning me the correct response, and why I'm getting an incorrect output on the Salesforce UI? Because one API might be internally calling another API also, and from that another internal API you might not be getting the correct response. Okay, so because of this also, on Salesforce UI you might be observing the issue. So as a Salesforce tester, you need to understand this thing also. Okay, so these all things we need to understand when it comes to API testing on Salesforce. Like APIs, it might be related from the upstream system to the Salesforce connection, or from Salesforce to the downstream system. Okay, it can be either way, the APIs can be connected. Okay, you need to test the both ways. Okay, the next thing is error handling on Salesforce. Okay, so it's not like simply like some error will be displayed on Salesforce if some incorrect input has been given. Okay, on Salesforce we have a concept called as a validation rules. Okay, for example, let's take a phone number field. Okay, so it's like if you're not assigning any validation rule to that particular phone number field, the user can simply provide some random text and he can save it. Okay, that's completely incorrect, right? So to validate properly whether user who is filling the form is exactly providing the 10 digits in the phone number field, we need to, I mean, the developer need to clearly add the validation rules. So for that particular phone number field, if any validation rule is added, then clearly, like instead of 10-digit phone number, if the user who is filling the form is providing some random text, then and we are trying to save, then automatically some error message, customized error message can be displayed on Salesforce. Okay, in this way, using validation rules, error is handled on Salesforce. Okay, another concept is called as a formula fields. Okay, means what, sometimes what will happen is few fields on Salesforce will be updated based on the formula. So being a Salesforce tester, we need to check this one also, whether the formula which is added in the backend is proper or not, and whether based on that formula whether the field is being correctly updated or not. Okay, so we need to, as a being a Salesforce tester, we need to test the validation rules and formula fields as well. Okay, now clearly, if you want to get the real time examples of formula fields and validation rules, already in my Salesforce administrator playlist I have created a videos on formula fields and validation rules. So I request you guys to kindly go through my Salesforce administrator playlist, so that all these concepts in real time I have already explained. Okay, so that it would be easy for you guys to relate. Okay, next concept is security on Salesforce. Okay, so on Salesforce, we have a particular concept called as a permission sets, right? It means what, everyone will not have access to all the objects or all the consoles available on the Salesforce. Okay, so for particular profile, some permission sets can be assigned. Okay, so that particular user who is assigned to that profile or who is assigned to that permission set only can be able to access that particular object. So such things are also available on Salesforce, which are completely new concepts, right? Which are not available in other applications. So, being a Salesforce tester, we need to test these things as well. Whether if I'm not given any correct permission set, whether I'm not able to view that object or not. Because if I have not been given the permission set and still I'm able to view that console or that object, then it's an issue, right? So it's a security issue. So these all things also you need to consider. Another thing is roles and profiles. So roles, for example, in a company, if you have been assigned with the role of CEO, then after you in the hierarchy, whoever is available in your team, you can view all their information or documents who is under you. Okay, because you are the topmost in the position, right, in your company. So in that way also you need to test. If you're not the topmost in your company and you're like in a team, then you should not be able to view the documents or reports or dashboards, anything created by the roles on top of you, okay, in the hierarchy. So such things also comes into picture. So being a Salesforce tester, you need to clearly understand the permission sets, roles and profiles concepts, so you can accordingly update your test cases and test the application accordingly. Okay, the next concept is very important, governor limits. So Salesforce internally will impose few governor limits. Means what? Usage limits. Okay, like it's not like everyone can go ahead and use all the resources provided by Salesforce, right? So some limit Salesforce will add, that limit is called as a governor limits. Okay, like for example, your particular organization should be able to utilize only these number of licenses. Okay, this much amount of memory. So such few usage limits Salesforce will impose. So being a Salesforce tester, you need to test such limits as well, like by exceeding these limits, if Salesforce is throwing any error or not, or even though if you're exceeding those limits, you are able to use those resources, or how the application is behaving overall after exceeding those limits. This kind of testing also you need to think, okay, while testing any Salesforce application. Okay, another important concept is classic and lightning on Salesforce. So in Salesforce we have two UIs, right? One is called as a classic experience, another one is called as a lightning experience. So classic is like the older version of Salesforce. Okay, so it's like a simple static UI. You will not find much dynamic pages like navigations and all those will be much of very static type. It's like an old UI. Okay, coming to lightning, lightning is what? It's like a very advanced UI. Like you can do lot of things on your Salesforce lightning experience, like the user, the way he can navigate. So it's like very user friendly. Along with that, it also brings the dynamic UI. Okay, like the multiple pages, and you can view the nested frames also on a particular page. Multiple frames will be available. So it's completely a dynamic UI. Okay, dynamic web elements will be available. So being a Salesforce tester, first of all you need to understand whether your application you need to test on classic or lightning. This is the first thing you need to know. Next, other how it happens is like few functionalities we need to test on classic, and few functionalities might be upgraded to lightning. So few you should be testing on lightning also. Such scenarios also may occur. So clearly before testing you need to understand whether your application you need to test on a completely classic or completely lightning, or few on classic or few functionalities on lightning. Okay, this thing you need to clearly understand before proceeding with testing. Another thing is existing application might be in classic. Okay, now they are migrating that existing application which is in classic completely to lightning. Okay, so you might need to test that upgrade also. Like you need to check on lightning whether whatever objects which are available on classic, whether they are available in lightning also. So a lot of things comes into picture, guys, before testing Salesforce. These are all concepts you need to understand. Okay, then only you can cover all the test scenarios without missing any critical defects. Okay, another most important concept is Salesforce automation. Okay, so I feel like compared to the other applications automation and compared to Salesforce automation is quite typical. I cannot say it's difficult, because in this current scenario, like we got multiple open source tools which are supporting multiple things also. So it's not difficult. We can crack anything in the Salesforce automation also. But the thing is, it initially it might be quite typical. Okay, for us to automate, because the UI is not so easy. Okay, it's a dynamic user interface, mainly the lightning application, multiple nested frames you can see, and the main problem is frequent updates on the UI. Okay, as I already told you, Salesforce UI will not be the same always. Frequent releases will happen, frequent updates will happen. Accordingly, you have to update your test cases also. So what I suggest is, while automating, you need to clearly understand like which functionality will not undergo major changes. Okay, so if it's undergoing major changes, then obviously high maintenance is required for your Salesforce automation script. Okay, then what is the purpose of automation? Okay, if you're simply wasting your complete time in maintaining your automation script, then what is the purpose of automation? Okay, so these all things you need to keep in your mind. Okay, so like Salesforce UI is like way more dynamic compared to other applications, and so these all things keep in mind before proceeding with the Salesforce automation. And I suggest you guys to choose the right automation tool which might fulfill your needs in your organization. Okay, then accordingly we can proceed. Well, guys, I feel like these are the most important differences we have in Salesforce testing compared to other regular applications available in the market, or which have been used in the other organizations. So I hope you guys found this video really helpful. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. Thank you.